Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Getting your colour correct is one of the hardest things when painting because you have to judge value, temperature and colour all together. In this video, I want to show you how understanding your palette and the colours you use will help make this process easier. My staple colours are cadmium yellow light, yellow ochre light, cadmium red, transparent red oxide, alizarin crimson, cerulean blue, ultramarine deep, titanium zinc white. Understanding where the colour sits on the colour wheel. Whatever colours you use, the first thing to understand is where your colour sits on the colour wheel. Remember, red is your warmest colour and blue is your coolest. As the colours move away from red towards blue, they become cooler. Everything is relative to what is next to it. So I would describe yellow as a warm colour, but when it's placed next to red, it's a cooler colour. A warm and cool palette. On my palette, I choose to have a warm and a cool version of every colour. Yellow ochre light is my warm yellow, cadmium yellow my cooler yellow, cadmium red is my warm red, alizarin crimson my cool red, ultramarine my warmer blue, cerulean blue my cooler blue. I can mix any colour physically possible from these 6 colours. So lay your colours from your warmest to your coolest on your palette and understand what versions of a colour you have. The properties of your paint. You may have also noticed that I have 3 transparent colours on my palette also. A warm yellow, a warm red and a warmer blue. I find these colours incredibly useful when colour mixing because of their transparent nature. Paints can be opaque, semi-opaque, semi-transparent and transparent. These 3 are opaque, these ones are semi-transparent and these 3 are transparent. What is the difference? With opaque paints, light cannot pass through it, so any layers of paint underneath are not visible. Opaque paint will give you flatter, more denser colour. Semi-transparent paints are exactly that. They allow some of your underneath colours to show through when used as a top layer. The colour is less dense. Semi-transparent paints can be used for glazing if you paint in layers. Transparent paints allow your bottom layers to be very visible and the colour is translucent. These paints can also be used for glazing. Understanding this is important when it comes to mixing. Your opaque paint will give you strong mixes with saturated colour. If I mix my cadmium red with my ultramarine deep, you will see I don't need to use much before my red is completely overpowered. You'll see also how much that opaque colour has affected my value too. Look at what happens if I lay an opaque colour on top of a semi-transparent colour. See how the colour holds its opacity. Now look at what happens if I try to paint a semi-transparent colour on top of an opaque colour. See how the colour from underneath are being pulled up. If you are attempting to paint alla prima and you are struggling with muddy colours, it may be that you are trying to lay semi-transparent paint onto opaque paint. The effect of white. When you mix white into another colour, what usually happens is that the chroma immediately decreases. You can see this in chalky paintings. The artist has used too much white and not compensated in their mixing for this. Transparent chromatic paint works differently. They hold their tinting strength really well when mixed with opaque colours, especially white. So if I want a warm light yellow, mixing a transparent yellow into my opaque white will give me better results than if I use either my cadmium yellow light or my yellow ochre light. The opaque white actually gives the illusion of bringing out the chroma in the transparent chromatic paint. If I am working with dark colours, my transparent yellow will not affect the value of my paint like my opaque cadmium yellow or my semi-transparent yellow ochre light. Furthermore, transparent paint will give a depth and luminosity to your painting that you just can't achieve with opaque or semi-opaque colours. Understanding the properties of your paint will help you avoid muddy and chalky paintings. Colour charts. A great way to really understand your colours is to create a number of colour charts. I'll run through briefly how you do this. Let's take cadmium red as an example. I am using my standard palette of colours that I listed earlier. At the top of your chart will be your true colour. Then for every square underneath, you'll add a bit of white until the values are very light. This is your first colour chart. Then you start mixing colours into colours. For example, 1 part cadmium red and 1 part your other colour mixes. So that would be cadmium red plus cadmium yellow light, cadmium red plus yellow ochre light, cadmium red plus alizarin crimson, etc. And just as before, you add white to the mix. This will be your second colour chart. Let's take alizarin crimson as our third example. I do exactly the same thing. I mix 1 part alizarin crimson, 1 part cadmium yellow light, then 1 part alizarin crimson plus 1 part yellow ochre light, etc. And then, just as I did before, I add white. This will be my third colour chart. You need to make a colour chart for every single one of the colours that you use on your palette. These charts will give you your colour mixes, your temperature changes and also your value changes. So if you are a beginner, then they can be very useful in your painting process. When you get stuck, you can look at these charts and figure out very quickly what you need to mix with what to get the colour you are looking at. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.